everyone, it's your girl Brain Shanae, and today is my stop for Coco Chapter's book tour, and this book tour is for Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. This is her new book that just recently came out last month in October, and I'm really excited to get into it with my book review. I had previously did a live discussion with a lot of my friends on BookTube, so you'll be able to see that up above if you want to check that out. But I personally wanted to give you like my thoughts and feelings about the book, and also just evaluating everything that a lot of my friends and I discussed during the live discussion for this particular book. So for me, I was a little nervous. I didn't know what I was going to be expecting from Jada. And before this book even came out, you know, I read Will's book and I felt for him. I felt sorry for him. I felt bad for him. He made it seem like the portrayal of what I read, of what it felt like to me when I read it and also listened to his audio. It seemed like he portrayed Jada as someone who just seemed ungrateful, and was just mean and just, you know, didn't appreciate him. But I always tell myself, and I try to tell others, there's always two sides to a story. And I was open to seeing what Jada had to say. And then right after Will's book comes out, you know, we deal with the slap with Chris Rock. And that led to a whole nother thing, and how Jada didn't stand up for her man. She didn't try to grab him, tell him to stay put or nothing. There was no response from her, particularly what Will had done that night. And then it was just a lot. And then prior to that, we dealt with the entanglement regarding August Alsina, which in her book, she does not say his name. She calls him her entanglee. Which I'm sure due to, legal purposes, his name was not dropped in the book. And so the world pictured Jada and as the villain. And I did too. I have to say that I have to be completely 100 with y'all. I also was that person who was like, Jada just didn't do anything for Will, didn't stand up for him. She just like, what kind of wife is she? I was also part of the crowd too. And prior to when the book came out for Worthy, people were already giving her a hard time, saying that, you know, we don't need to hear more about this, yada, 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 because she kept spilling the tea of them being separated for a while since 2016. And she mentions during the time of the awards, you know, with the big slap or whatever, that was the first time Will called her his wife in for a long time. So that threw her off. So the world has just been just left and right was revealed with a lot of things, and a lot of spoilers from Jada. And people were just not giving her the time of day. People were just saying they're tired of her. They don't want to hear it. But I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel like I was tired of hearing it. I was just ready to hear her side of the story. And so with this particular book, I also listened to the audio, which she narrates her book as well, which I do appreciate and I love. And I do love the cover. I like how she implemented her family pictures into the cover itself, if you can take a glimpse at it. But first, she tells us that she is not a therapist. And when I think about this book and everything that's in it, it has a lot of self-help, and it brings awareness to a lot of things, especially when she introduces her book with the first chapter of depression and what she was going through. And I actually felt like I had something in common with her, because I still go through it time and again, where I have these moments where I am just completely depressed, and throughout the years I found ways to cope with it, but I still deal with it. It's still a real thing. And for her to be vulnerable and let people know, I do appreciate it. Now I know that she did Red Table Talk. I know that she also recently, told her, expressed to the world of what she was going through, and also with her alopecia, all of that. So I get it, but still writing a book after everything that's taken place in the last few years, I found that to be very, very brave. And as we get into this book, we're going back into the very beginning of her life, of her being with her grandmother, which that was another thing that I related with Jada, because I was always around my grandmother, and she was like the root of like everything of who I am today, of, you know, and just her and the closest of her grandmother, I teared up a little bit because it reminded me of the relationship that I had with my grandmother, and stuff. And so after that, she goes into, you know, of her parents and their addictions, and how they're constantly in denial about certain things. And I appreciated Jada also doing this as well, because in Black families, in the Black community in particular, a lot of families, they don't admit their wrongs. And sometimes it takes a person or a book to let them realize what they had done, you know, and have that person to, you know, finally acknowledge what they had done, because what they had done in the past, it trickled down to your children. It's like a cycle, that it's a continuous cycle that needs to be broken, but it tends to constantly just keep continuing throughout the years. So Jada also brings up that as well in her book. And also like the stuff where it comes with Tupac. Before this book even came out, people were like saying Tupac didn't like her, yada, yada, yada. They made it seem like they had an intimate relationship, like they were together, like they were dating. As I read this book, I realized what Jada was conveying is they have a bond of a brotherly, sisterly friendship. He spent the night with her a couple nights, you know, because, you know, his mother wasn't home, you know, like they had a bond, they had a friendship that, no, you can't, if you don't know, you don't know, and you can't really explain it. But I felt for her, because the world made it seem like she was saying like he was mine, you know, yada, 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 I was dating him, all this stuff. No, it was never like that at all. She looked at Tupac like a brother. And they've been through a lot with each other. What Jada has shared throughout this book, I found to be an eye-opener. I feel like prior to the book was coming out, the people are already passing judgment without even reading the book. And I feel like, read the book, because I feel like you may have a different perspective after you do so, which I did. I do now. I have a better understanding of Jada. I have a better understanding of Will. I'm going to say it again. There's two sides to a story. And I'm glad that I was able to get the side of Jada, who we as people been villainizing her and making her seem like the person that destroyed their marriage to begin with. But in reality, she knows, I think now she's starting to acknowledge the wrongs that she has done in the past, and realizing, like, you know, the choices that her and Will have both made. But I also like the quotes that she has in this book. Like I said this prior to, you know, in this video, that she has a lot of, it's like a self-help book as well, where it talks about certain quotes. Now, she's not a therapist, but so keep that in mind. But I felt like these quotes were very helpful throughout the book. There's some that I had highlighted and outline some of them, because I did not know that these quotes existed, and it really can be helpful not only to you know, you, but to others as well. So I do appreciate of what Jada was going for as she was writing this book. A lot of stuff was being revealed regarding Will and Jada and their relationship, and how he seemed very, very controlling. And this is from Jada's perspective. Because in Will's book, he seemed like a free spirit, which he mostly is. But he has a very controlling, demanding personality as well that we don't see. And that's another thing. I can't, as a person that was judging Jada, which I am no longer doing that, I do not walk in their shoes. At the end of the day, this is their relationship. These are two people who are trying to work out their relationship, trying to figure out what they want to do, you know, since they are separated. You know, they promised each other that they wouldn't get a divorce, or, you know, and Will said he would never, ever get a divorce. So I think they're just working it out. So who am I to judge them about their marriage? Who am I to say that Jada should have did this and did this at the, you know, at their awards, so that Chris, you know, that whole debacle took place where Chris Rock was slapped by Will. And to come to find out, they weren't even together. They were separated. And she even questioned on even going with him in the first place. You know, they live 2 separate lives. They live in 2 separate houses. And just knowing that alone, it makes me think about, you know, like, you know, this dude, we're together, you know, as an image thing where people know us as husband, as wife, but in reality, we're not like that. So that's how she took it, you know. Some people might not don't like the actions that she had done during the awards and stuff, but that's what she wanted. That's the actions that she chose. But I like that it just breaks down a few things, regarding how she felt like she wasn't worthy. And I broke down a little bit, because as women sometimes, and we're, you know, married women at that, you know, or just being women in general, we try to figure out, are we worthy enough? Are we enough at all? You know? And Jada, I feel like as every person in this world, we go through this journey of finding ourselves. And I think that's what life is all about, finding yourself, finding out who you are, what you want to do with your life, what is your calling. And I feel like Jada is still seeking that, and that is completely fine. There is no age limit of being on this journey, this life journey. She's been on this journey for, you know, since she was born. You know, she was, you know, selling drugs because she needed money. She wanted new clothes and stuff like that. You know, like, she made choices, but her life was a journey, and she had to live throughout those choices for her to become who she is today. She went through a lot in Hollywood where they felt like she was just too hood. And so some of the roles weren't meant for her. Or she looked too boyish. I mean, she went through a lot in Hollywood, and women today, especially Black women, still go through that today. But I think with Jada, like I said, I have a better understanding of her. It mentions of her and Will when they were first dating, and it was just very odd to me. Like even in his book, he literally a week or two after he filed for divorce, or whoever filed it first, which I believe was Cherie, like weeks later, he was hitting up Jada and saying, "You're my girl," just like that, which is controlling. How are you going to tell a woman that she is yours? Right? Like, excuse me. Slow your roll. And so that's how their relationship began. That's how it started. And even Jada, throughout the book, she says she never really wanted commitment, because she's seen a lot throughout her childhood with her mom and her dad and her mom's marriages, and a lot of the men would always leave. So she didn't want commitment, but it seemed like Will was there. They both fed into their addictions. Jada mentions that mostly she had a sex addiction, which in Will's book, if you read it, he talks about how they were constantly having sex. I mean, they had sex when she found out that Tupac died, but that was her mourning and grieving. And I think they both didn't realize what was going on. You know, just the signs of something is not right. Something is toxic. And sometimes you're not going to know in the moment. Sometimes it takes you years later to realize that was not right. That was very toxic. What we had done, we didn't acknowledge things that we did, and not knowing that this would affect us in the long run. And I just also with this quote where it says, "A queen is her own savior. Her magic is quiet, potent, and mysterious." And at the time, she considered Will her savior. And at the end of the day, Like, yeah, we may say that someone has saved their life, but it has to be you. You have to be your own savior at the end of the day. And I have to remember that as well. Yes, there can be somebody there to hold you, or, a shoulder to cry on, or someone to talk to, but it's still you. You have to push yourself out of that hole, out of that darkness that you may be in at that time. And I think that's also what Jada was conveying in her book, Worthy. Now, mind you, I didn't rate this book because I don't really rate memoirs, but if I rated it based off of the pacing, off of her how she was narrating, I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I know people consider her book a flop. I'm not one of those people. I don't consider her book a flop. I thought this was brilliant. I thought it was flawless, because at the end of the day, for you to come out with your own book, speaking your truth and your own story, that's really brave. Really brave. And for you to be an author, that's just amazing. Because she didn't have to write this book, but she did, because also this is just writing a book, or just writing in general, is a way of healing, is a way of moving on to the next thing that you're trying to work on yourself, like, so I have to, like, even in the book, I said, sorry, Jada, because when I kept saying sorry, I was saying sorry to the fact that I was judging her and not really realizing that I'm only getting one part of this story and I'm not getting the whole story. I'm still curious. I would love to see about the children from their perspective, because as children, their perspectives are going to be completely different, and it might be even more eye-opening to what they experienced, with Trey, Jaden, and Willow, and what they've seen as they were growing up when it comes to Will and Jada and Cherie as well, and that whole dynamic. I'm sure they probably have stuff to say, but I mean, they probably won't ever write a book. If they do, I definitely will read it. I'm open. And when I say, and I'm open, because at first I was thinking in my head, am I really going to want to read Jada's book? I felt like it, because in my head, I'm thinking like, I think I've read enough. I don't think I can read her book. I just don't know. But I had to keep an open mind and to let her say her piece. Let her say what she has to say. I mean, that's what we all been waiting for. And now as she has a book out, we complain and talk about they don't want to hear anymore. Well, fine, but you won't hear her side of the story, But I really enjoyed Worthy. I thought it was a fantastic book. I have no complaints whatsoever about it. I feel like if you haven't read her book, I suggest you do so, because you're missing out on something where I think it'll give you a better understanding of not just Jada, but also Will and their relationship. I don't know. I just think about all those times of like how people, before the book came out, people were just constantly judging and saying that she was lying about this, she was lying about that. If she lied, she lied. I'm not going to try to go out my way to see if she lied. I'm just not going to do it, because these are her shoes that she is walking in. I don't walk in her shoes. I'm an outsider looking in. I don't live with them. I don't live with the Smith family. I don't live with Jada. I don't live with Will. I just don't know. And, now we have all these allegations of Will and Dwayne as well. So, and all these allegations also came out years ago, and now it's coming back. So, I don't know, y'all. But from just reading Worthy, I think you will enjoy it. I think you all will enjoy this book and what it has to offer, because not only this is about Jada's story, but this is also about dealing with depression, finding ways and making you realize the things that you had done in your past that affects you today, and things that you have to change today in order to be a better person, and having a wake up or realization of, wow, I'm really in denial right now about myself. And I really think her breaking point which in the book, which also Will explains this as well, sort of a little bit in his book, of during her birthday party, and how in Will's story, in Will's book, he said that she just wasn't happy and it seemed like she was very unappreciative of what he did. But from her perspective, she's the one that told him she never wanted the birthday party to begin with because she just couldn't do it. She mentally couldn't do that. And he still proceeded with the birthday party anyway. He went against her wishes. And knowing that, it gives you a different perspective. It gives you a different light on their relationship. But overall, I would give this a 4 to 5 stars based on the pacing, based on the format of the book itself, based on her narration as she, read the book to us. And also with the quotes that she provided in the books as well. And like I said, you gotta go read it. You gotta read this book. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very fascinating. I'm glad we finally got the side of Jada. I'm glad that Jada finally spoke. It was a long time coming. And I appreciate this. I appreciate her for being brave enough, or not being enough, just being brave to even provide this to us throughout the world with everything that's been happening and everything that she has gone through. And I'm happy that she also wrote this because it also lets women know that they are worthy. They are more than just a person or a trophy on their man's shoulder or their significant other's shoulders. You are more than that. And I think also just she wanted to separate from Will because she wanted to realize to everyone that she is her own person as well. Her and Will, they may be separated or whatever legally, but they are two different people, that have lived 2 different lives. So sometimes you have to separate them. You can't, as humans, it's natural to judge that a person that's actions and also judge their significant other as well as they're a package. And I felt like with Jada, she wanted to have her own thing and separate Will from the two, saying her own story. And I'm tired. I'm sorry. I'm just babbling at this point. But if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I feel like if you want to hear from her perspective, I think you should be open-minded and hear her out. But that is my book review. I know I was being chatty about it, but I was just really passionate about this book because it's not just a self-help book, but it tells you that you are worthy regardless of the person that you are with or the family that you have. You are worthy. You are worthy and you are enough. But that is it. I really hope you enjoyed this book review. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you are staying healthy and staying safe. See ya.